So how can you reach your full potential faster? That was a question that I asked myself because I felt like I had more inside that I just didn't know how to unlock. And really, I didn't know how to show others what I was capable of too. That's when I read the book, Awaken the Giant Within from Tony Robbins. This book was pivotal when it came to helping me unlock the right mindset that was already inside of me to help me reach my full potential, not only in business, but with my family and with my health. We want to share our biggest takeaways from Tony so you too can awaken your giant within. If you're ready to do that with us, let's go. It's time to redefine leadership. Welcome to Modern Leadership, where we see things differently. Our channel is all about empowering entrepreneurs like you to achieve the next level of success in business and life. We believe that you can create a massive impact in the world without compromising your personal life or family time to do so.
We're committed to providing you with actionable tips and strategies weekly to make that possible. So if you're ready to become a modern leader and make a lasting difference in the world, consider subscribing, turn on notifications, and dive into our community. We want to thank you for being here because the world needs your leadership now more than ever. Let's go. So how did Awaken the Giant Within first impact your perspective on personal development?
Yeah, so we have a bunch of quotes that we pulled from the book because this is one of the books that I read really early on. I remember you got to see Tony Robbins because he came to UCLA Medical Center, and I remember you having a conversation about you should read this book because it's really powerful, like how he spoke. Mm-hmm. For this, like there's two things that really stuck out to me in terms of the book. The first one that had to do with a quote that he says, "It's not the events of our lives that shape us, but our beliefs as to what those events mean." Mm-hmm. And so this was kind of like this first kind of like ability for me to lean into life coaching was like, It didn't matter what happened to me. What really did matter is how I responded to it, right? Because a lot of times you would think the outside world needs to change before I can change. Mm-hmm. But in reality, it's in reverse. When you change, believe it or not, the outside world starts to change for you. And it's really because you're giving events different interpretations or meanings that before you were making it mean something about you and your potential. Now it's potentially something that you can turn around and actually lean into as your superpower instead. Yeah. The second thing that stuck out to me is he says, know that it's your decisions and not your conditions that determine your destiny. Mm-hmm. So very similar with the first, right? It's all about giving yourself the power, right? He says, awaken the giant within. And so when you start looking at reasons why you could be successful, reasons that this is an actual opportunity, you start to transform the meaning of it and you start to show up on a different level. So really being able to like tackle that level of mindset, which by the way, wasn't something that I had to get from the outside. It was just an internal like trigger that I needed to flip the switch, right? It totally got me into seeing things as opportunities versus seeing them as what's broken, wrong, or missing. Now, of course, sometimes I still go down that path, but being able to reframe it using what we're going to share here today was a game changer. So let me jump into question number 2, and that's, can you share a core principle from the book that significantly changed the way that you approach your goals?
Yeah, he talks about a formula called the ultimate success formula, which is really kind of like this process for getting you to where you want to go. Now, he breaks this down into 4 steps, and I'm going to go over those right now. So step number 1 is decide what you want. You really need to know like where it is that you're going, right? So that you can actually take the steps forward to get there. Number 2 is take action. Like actually take the action to move towards what it is that you want. Number 3 is notice what's working or not. This is where we actually do this with our clients as well, is that we actually try to evaluate how well things are going and make adjustments if they're not working. So if you're continuing to take action, but you don't actually evaluate and assess what's going on so that you can make adjustments along the way, then you're going to find yourself in a completely different place when you get to wherever it is that you wanted to get to. So you're not going to be taking the right actions if you don't actually stop to think whether or not those actions are actually taking you and moving you towards your goal. And number 4 is change your approach until you achieve what you want. Now, again, this is kind of like related to step number 3 is you really need to kind of reevaluate what you're doing every now and then, because that way you know you're actually on track.
Yeah, I love this. And when you think about this, it's kind of like very similar to the scientific formula, where you take emotion out of it and you think about it logically. Because when we think about goals, right, we think about to get to the end of the year, this is what we want to be able to achieve, right? When we help clients reverse engineer that, it's only coming from a place of like, these actions might work. And the truth is like, nobody knows, because what worked for us may or may not work for you and vice versa, right? It's not like if everybody does this, then everybody's going to get this. We have different strengths, different weaknesses, different audiences that we help serve, different family, different personalities. All of these things muddy the waters when it comes to the action. But the important part is once you decide what you want, you take action, then you actually think about like, oh, okay, so what's working and what's not? And then what's not working, let's do less of or do something different. What is working, let's do more of it. Yeah. And it's beautiful when you have this kind of philosophy related to goals, because what you think it's going to take to get you to your goal is never what it actually takes. I mean, us, for example, like, so I wanted to be able to leave my full-time police career. And I thought that working with an MLM was going to be the thing that actually did that. And so for 7 years, I did everything that I was supposed to do. I took action, and I didn't realize that that thing was just a stepping stone to get me to where I am today. I was kind of trying to force it into, no, it's got to fit in here, right? And once I understood that that was the case, and I was like, well, this is working. It's got me here. But what if this is a stepping stone for me to get into creating my own business related to coaching and leadership and performance? And then when I stepped into that, I got to bring all of the lessons from that previous business into this business. And it allowed me to achieve the level of growth that I've been able to achieve now, where I got to leave my job, right? So it's all of this, not just on the tiny goals, but even the big goals. It's all about figuring out what you want, taking action. Doesn't matter what the action is, just take action. And then actually sitting back and going, is this working? Is this not working? And then making adjustments as you go. And that's really what we kind of do as a coach, is take you through all these steps. Because a lot of times we inject emotion into our own situations and circumstances. And what a coach can do is remove that and help you tap into, like we said, like your full potential.
Yeah. And the way that I see it and why he calls it Awaken the Giant Within is because it's kind of like tapping into that untapped potential that you have, that we all have. So it's really like the way that he frames this is so that you can actually find that and tap into that. All right. So the next question is, Tony Robbins emphasizes the power of decision making. So can you describe what he does about making a decision and share a moment when a decision you made really led to a significant change in your life?
So there's this quote that he shares in the book. He says, 3 decisions that we all control each moment of our lives. Number 1, what to focus on. Number 2, what things mean. And number 3, what to do in spite of the challenges that may appear to limit us. So when I think about like making a decision, when I think about where we're going to focus our time and attention on, and really being able to see that we can be in charge of where our destiny is, as long as we are focused on making the decision that's not only in alignment with our values, but in alignment with what we want, knowing that we can't beat ourselves up later if it doesn't work out that way. It was just a part of that science experiment. That is really what we're after, right? So when I think about like outside circumstances, for example, like I was doing the 75 hard program, and it was at the time that I was still working full-time for LAPD, and we had a tactical alert that ended up turning into a riot in Los Angeles. And so I had to work for 13 days. And so that outside circumstance could have very easily helped me make a decision of not doing the program anymore. But instead, I remembered what I read from this book, and I thought, well, how could this be an opportunity where I find a way to make this happen, find a way to do it without sacrificing more family time, but how much more like would I be able to influence people who maybe aren't in the same situation as me if I'm able to navigate this in this like really turmoil and time, like all of the time was being taken from me in that moment. And so what I was able to do is I was able to come up with a plan, which ended up being, when I got home at end of watch, I would take my kids out, one of them each day for 15 minutes, and then one day with Teresa to be able to go out on a walk for the 75 hard. Now, it was a 45-minute workout, but if I went out and walked, had a conversation with them, I actually got to spend more time with them while still being able to do the program. And this was the 3rd time that I ended up completing the program because I was willing to see things differently. And when you can empower yourself with those decisions, going, you know what, by making this decision, this isn't going to be easy, but it's going to help me be able to be more capable of helping other humans when I get through this. It just gives you so much more power rather than thinking, well, I guess this happened, so I guess it can't be possible, right? Mm-hmm. It's crazy what you can teach not only yourself, but others when you can figure out a way of like really just getting creative and finding another way to solve that problem.
Yeah.
So number 4 is, how have you altered your belief systems after reading this book, and what has that created for you?
Yeah, and he has this quote here that I really like. He says, success is the result of good judgment. Good judgment is the result of experience, and experience is often the result of bad judgment. So it's really about, like, you know, what we said earlier. It's like what you choose to do, like the response that you have to what happens, right? It's all about decisions. Like, life is a series of decisions, and what you choose to focus on. And I think that sometimes we go around thinking that we don't have control over anything. And when we do that, we relinquish our control of our life. And then things just seem to happen to us. And it's kind of like we just kind of let go. But when we realize that we do have control over ourselves and how we respond to situations and the judgment that we make, right? I think that it's like super powerful just to have this as a philosophy for life.
100%. And I also think about this related to making decisions, right? Because we always want to make the right decision. Like, there's a right or wrong decision, right? And there's only just the decision for us to make.
Yeah.
And kind of like what he's talking about is like, you know, when you think about the end goal, like everybody wants to just rush there and just make the right decision. But it starts by making a decision, even if it's the wrong one, and then actually figuring out that was the wrong one, and then making a different decision. How many things have you done in life where maybe you made a bad decision, and because of that, you are now where you are right now in a totally different place because you actually found out that was the wrong decision, right? So this is one of those quotes where it's like, it kind of lets me off the hook of like saying, this right or wrong decision is going to change my life forever. Well, it's like, well, no, because I can also make a different decision tomorrow if this doesn't work out. And then it's like, okay, take the pressure off, Mark. Like, this is just a science experiment. Let's try this and see if it works.
Yeah. Okay, so what's one of the most ambitious goals you've set after being inspired by the book, and how did you go about achieving it?
Yeah, so one of the big goals that I had was be able to make $500,000 in our business, so that we could like leave our full-time jobs. And when I think about that goal, I want to kind of like share with you how that actually helped me do that. But I want to share like some of the different philosophies that really stuck to me to allow me to grow into that type of person. He said the first one is, your brain can't tell the difference between something you vividly imagine and something you actually experienced. So one of the things that I would do is I would close my eyes and I would think about what it's going to be like when I retire, what it's going to be like when we're able to go on vacations, when we're able to do this, when I'm able to be around this beautiful woman all the time and I don't have to go into work all the time. I get to take the kids to school, pick them up, do all of those kind of things. And I would vividly imagine it, and it would start to get me to feel differently, and it would get me to show up differently in my life. Because when you're trying to achieve a goal, you don't want to wait until the end to feel that way. You can actually feel that way right now, and that will help you take the actions that you need to take when you're in the route to get there, right? The second one is, stay committed to your decisions, but stay flexible in your approach. I'm going to say that one more time because that's really powerful. Stay committed to your decisions, but stay flexible in your approach. See, I had decided that I was going to leave my police career, but I had to be flexible in order to how I was going to make that happen. I was talking about early on, like I had really had a lot of success in this MLM company, but I kind of hit a gap. I hit this thing that between $40,000 and $50,000 where I just couldn't get past. And I was trying everything, right? I didn't realize it was a stepping stone instead of this is my final thing. So I had to be flexible in how I got there, but not flexible with my decision to get there. Does that make sense? And when you do that, it's crazy because the world will present things to you. As a matter of fact, for me, 3 times I was presented with life coaching, right? And 2 times I denied it. I said, not the right time, or not the right money. I didn't have enough money. I didn't have enough like people to coach, like all of these different like limiting beliefs were coming up that prevented me from doing it. And the third time I'm like, all those things still exist and I'm going to do it anyway. Because once again, getting internalized into your mindset of like, I'm going to find a way to do this. And then once I did that, it was crazy because within 41 days, I made back the $20,000 that I actually spent on the life coach certification in 41 days. And then since then, it's exponentially grown. And so it's one of these things where when you take control, like Teresa said, of the things you can control, and you focus on making the decision and getting there, I'm going to make it happen. But how you get there, that's going to be something I'm open to interpretation. It's crazy what gets put in front of you that probably would have been put in front of me anyway, but I just wouldn't have been open enough to like explore it.
Exactly. We will be open to actually seeing what it is that's being presented and seeing it as an opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, that leads into the next question, which is like, Tony Robbins discusses turning obstacles into opportunities. Can you share a way that he reframes them and share a time when you turned a challenge into a success?
Yeah. So he says, achievers rarely, if ever, see a problem as permanent, while those who fail see even the smallest problems as permanent. So this is really a process, because especially if you're kind of a pessimist and you kind of see things naturally, you kind of see things as obstacles rather than opportunities. And it's really about getting into that mindset of, okay, this seems on the surface level to be a problem, but how can I see this in a different way? How can I perceive this as just an opportunity for me to do something different or to make a different decision, right? And that can change so many things, so many different paths that you can take because you're more focused on the opportunity.
When you think about a lot of the struggles and the challenges and stuff that we go through, it actually makes us into the people that we are, right? Because if everything was given to us, everything was totally easy and totally fine, you know, everybody could grow a successful business and not have to be challenged by anything, like everybody would just be the same, right? And it's an important part of the process, but in the moment, it feels like it sucks. But being able to like go, okay, at some point, this is going to turn into an opportunity. This is actually going to empower me to do something with, even though it doesn't feel great right now. And I know that that's going to be the case, right? And what also came up for me at this quote too is like, sometimes if you notice that the smallest things can like literally now feel like the whole world's coming to an end, reframing your mind, being around other people who can reframe their minds too is something that is like, it's contagious, right? You hang out with other people and one small thing happens is like, it's the end of the world. My business isn't going to work. And it's like, it's very easy to now take on the beliefs of them because you're hanging out with them.
So he says, every great successful person I know shares the capacity to remain centered, clear, and powerful in the midst of emotional storms. How do they approach this? Most of them have fundamental rules. In life, never spend more than 10% of your time on the problem and spend at least 90% of your time on the solution. Most important, don't sweat the small stuff. And remember, it's all small stuff.
Yeah. Spend 90% of your time on the solution, 10% of your time on the problem.
And really, that's just, addressing that it is a problem and then just finding the solution for it the rest of the time. So looking back from when you first read the book to now, what do you think is the most lasting impact it has had on your approach to life and business?
This one quote is something that I remind myself of all the time. I actually hear Ed Milet say it now too. He said, the quality of your life is a direct reflection of the quality of the questions that you're asking yourself. That is like the epitome of life and performance coaching. It is the conversations that you're having in your brain is generally in response to a question that you're programming into your brain. It's kind of like Google. If you go to Google and you search a question and it's a negative or bad question, you're going to have negative and bad stuff come out. That's just what Google does. Your brain is like Google. When you ask yourself, how could I see this as an opportunity? It's going to find how it's an opportunity. If you ask yourself, why is this happening to me? Why is this not working? Why am I not good enough? It's going to give you some answers. You're not going to like those answers. It will focus on whatever you ask it to focus on. And so what we do is we think about what is a powerful question that we can ask so that we can get powerful answers, right? Because the truth is, we teach this in our life coach certification. We have our head voice and we have our heart voice, which means there's always going to be two voices. One voice is going to try and keep you safe, get you to live small, get you to think about the past, use it against yourself, and not get yourself to show up the way that you want to. But another place is your heart voice, which is a question that talks about your purpose, your passion, love, like hope. It gives you that like extra oomph so that you can go out and so you can do those things that you really, truly want to do. I mean, this is the reason why we value and really love life coaching so much. Obviously, it's something that we do inside of our inner circle, which is our community here on YouTube. And if that's ever something that you're interested in, I'll leave you a link so you can click on to learn a little bit more. But it's about surrounding yourself with other people who ask really great and powerful questions. This is what we do during all of our live calls to really help people like identify the things that are the greatest opportunities for them that they may not see if they're out in the real world around other people who maybe say that they're realists, but they're also like going to create more of what they don't want when they're focusing their brain on that. So if you're ever interested, don't hesitate to reach out and we'll leave you that link inside the show notes. Most importantly, just remember what you focus on grows. So make sure you take charge of your focus today.